Tonight's Senate floor speech comes from Chris Murphy, raising fundamental questions about war powers, executive authority, and congressional responsibility. Referencing arguments made by Tammy Duckworth, Murphy frames this moment not as partisan disagreement, but as a constitutional test. At stake is whether major U.S. military action can proceed without public debate, formal authorization, or clearly defined objectives. A concern that
Recognize the senator from Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm humbled to follow my colleague from Illinois. No one is more articulate on the question of the costs of war than Senator Duckworth, and I agree with everything that she said about the importance of this moment. Listen, maybe the most sacred clause in the Constitution is the war-making clause. Our founding fathers gave a lot of thought about the danger of allowing one individual to send this country into foreign conflict, to send our young men and women overseas to face harm and potential death. No, our founding fathers decided that that had to be a question answered by the American public, and that's why the decision to go to war was vested not in an executive or a monarch or a king, but in the Congress, in the People's House, and in the Senate. I think this is probably the most significant military engagement of many of our lifetimes that has gone without a debate and a vote on the Senate floor. It is extraordinary, not just that we have not had a vote, as is required by the Constitution, not just that the president persists in this action without an authorization by Congress, but that there hasn't even been a single public hearing in the Foreign Relations Committee or the Armed Services Committee to require the administration to explain to the American people and to the United States Senate why we're in this war, what the goals are, and what the end game will be. Now, I think it's extraordinary and heartbreaking and outrageous.
What Murphy is emphasizing here goes beyond criticism of any single administration. Under the U.S. Constitution, Congress holds the authority to declare war, a safeguard designed to prevent unilateral military action. While presidents have often relied on prior authorizations or emergency powers, the absence of hearings or votes raises legitimate constitutional concerns. Murphy's references to Iran's predictable responses, including regional escalation and threats to global energy routes, echo assessments long discussed by defense analysts. Yet the deeper issue is institutional. When Congress does not assert its role, accountability weakens. The key question for viewers is this: does congressional silence enable risky foreign policy decisions?
That the Senate is not doing its duty under the Constitution to require the administration to ask permission to go to war and to explain itself before Congress, but I guess I understand why. This is an attempt to hide the incompetence, the growing incompetence of this war. The president said the other day he was really surprised when Iran started bombing its neighbors. Like the first page of the briefing book that a president would get on the consequences of a major military strike on Iran would be that missiles and drones would start to be sent to American bases, American forces, and our partner forces in the region. Reports are that the president just kind of guessed that they wouldn't gum up the Strait of Hormuz, even though the second page of that briefing book would have told you, you know what the first thing Iran will do if you assassinate the Shia religious leader in the middle of the holy month and bomb them relentlessly day after day, hour after hour? They will close the Strait of Hormuz. No plan to protect our partners in the region. Our partners are running out of interceptors as we speak. The region is on fire. No plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It's closed today. It'll be closed tomorrow. It'll be closed the day after. Prices are going to go up for everybody in this country. The billionaires, the people who show up to have dinner with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago in the middle of the war, they'll be able to afford it. But regular people who live in Ohio and Connecticut and Illinois, they won't be able to afford these high gas prices. Every day there's a new revelation of the incompetence. Here's one from the last 24 hours. Apparently, President Trump decommissioned a bunch of our minesweepers. There was a really competent British minesweeper in the region that left days before the invasion began. We literally gave away our capability to clear the strait of mines right before we took military action that would knowingly cause the strait to be closed and mined. You can't make this up. The reason we are bringing this vote tonight, the reason that Senator Kaine did the same thing earlier, the reason that we will continue to bring these votes is because we have an obligation to have a debate, to have votes on the question of war, especially on the question of this incompetent war. I've sat in classified briefing after classified briefing, and I still have gotten no answer on how this war ends. I actually don't think any of my Republican colleagues could explain how this war ends. Apparently, a worse regime, more provocative to the region, more adversarial to U.S. interests, will remain in charge of Iran when we decide to stop bombing. Estimates are that they will be able to rebuild their missile and drone capability in months after we declare an end to the hostilities. The nuclear program will still be there because you can't bomb out of existence either knowledge or the fissile material that is buried deep under the earth. So at the end of this, we're going to have raised prices for everybody here. We're going to have cost a lot of American lives. We're going to have set on fire the region. By the way, a new war, already having killed 1,000 people, is breaking out between Israel and Lebanon. And Iran is going to be more dangerous, not less dangerous at the end. We need to debate this in our committees, on the Senate floor. And so I'm glad to stand here with Senator Booker. I don't think this will be the last time that we will have this debate. What are we doing this week? We're talking about voter fraud that doesn't exist when there's a war happening that is illegal, when prices are going through the roof. This is what we should be debating right now. This is why the Senate exists, to stand here and debate the most important questions. And what's more important than war and peace, than 13 Americans dead overseas, than the cost of war being borne by poor families here at home? This is what we should be debating this week. And so we will use our opportunity under the statute and under the rules to make sure that we have the opportunity, at least for an hour each day, to be able to talk about this incompetent, illegal, unconstitutional war with no planned end.
This debate underscores how quickly foreign policy decisions can shift from strategy to consequence, affecting global stability, energy prices, and American lives at home and abroad. Murphy, joined by lawmakers like Tim Kaine and Cory Booker, argues that the failure to debate war openly risks normalizing executive overreach. References to rising costs, regional instability, and long-term security outcomes raise questions that remain unresolved. What do you think? Should Congress reclaim a stronger role in authorizing military action, or has modern warfare made that framework outdated? Share your thoughts below, and if you value fact-based, nonpartisan analysis like this, don't forget to like, comment,